Okay, so welcome back. So let's get started where we left. We were talking about this population issue of the country and also about that demographic dividend. So we'll continue that discussion in the upcoming slides. So we'll look at some of the global issues, and then again we'll get into the Indian issue as well. So we keep on juggling between global and Indian scenario because you need to be familiar with both. So if you look at the world, like number of births per woman in 1960s, it was 1965. It was used to be around 5 births per woman, and that number has gone down to less than 2.5 in 2015. So these are kind of actual data. Now in India, also, if you look at the number of births per woman, in 1960, we had around 6 birth per woman, which has again also has gone down to around 2.5, slightly less than 2.5, like 2.2, 2.3 in 2016, 2017. So the latest data is around 2.2, 2.3, as you saw in the earlier slide as well. So the fertility rate is the average number of children born to a woman in a population during their reproductive years. So in between 1955 and 2011, this total fertility rate dropped from 5 to 2.5, and if we have around 2.1, that will eventually halt the world's population growth. So we'll have kind of flat line as we approach of 2.1, because people do die as well, isn't it? So so if we have around 2.1 as the fertility rate, so amount of the new persons coming to this world and the persons leaving the world kind of will match out, and then we will have world's population growth will kind of come to a standstill. So India's population is going to surpass China by 2030 as per UN report. Between 2017 and 2050, half of the world's, if you look at the half of the world's population in next 30 some years, it is actually going to be in 9 countries, and you saw some of those countries in the previous world map. Then we looked at some of the African countries actually will be part of those 9, and then of course India and China is still part of that. So if you look at to fertility rate in terms of the world's fertility rate, China's fertility rate, and the India's fertility rate, there are 3 colors here. World is in red, China is in blue, and India is in green. So, and the data has been given for several, like a 5 years interval. Some of those are actual data, like the first one is kind of actual, second one is half actual, half model, and then the future one is based on the projection data. So as you can see, in terms of fertility rate, live births per woman in the world is around 2.5, which is again to 2010 to 2015, and in China it was 1.6, in India it was 2.44. And one thing, if you look at the comparison between India and China, let's look at India and China first. World, what is there? It is gradually going down. As you can see, the red bars, they are actually gradually coming down. That's what it is happening with the red bar. But if you look at the blue and the green bar, you see certain changes. Like earlier, now we are seeing more like green bar, which belongs to India, is higher, but gradually the green is coming down and the blue is going up, and they are going to level by the end of this century, around 2019, 2095 and 2100. So we will be almost the same. So what, and then of course if you go below 2.1, that's our population, like global population growth rate will be flat, but then individual countries still will have population going up. So in that case, as you can see, so why this? If you look at the green and the blue one, why it is happening? Of course, you should think about that. We can discuss in more detail in the class, but I'll give you a hint. It is more to do with the one-child policy of China. So initially, now just a couple of years ago, they have relaxed that policy a little bit. So because of that they are having too many old age people and too less young people to take care of them. So they just want, they have relaxed that policy of one child in China in recent times. So that's why you will see slightly increase in China's population fertility rate. Okay, and mortality rate is the number of death per thousand people. So if you have mortality rate and the fertility rate kind of balanced out, then in that case there will not be increase in population as such. So here if you look at the mortality rate, how much deaths are happening per thousand people, where you see that very very light blue, which is in some of these like a African country on top there, and also some of those like developed countries as well. Then as the blue gets more and more said, India is in terms of 6 to 8 people death per thousand people every year, and our birth rate was, remember the fertility rate was much higher, so we were around 35 and death is only 6 to 8. So that's why we are adding new people on this in the country. So this is like what you are looking at, and if you have where the aging population is more, and there you see that darker blue, either the aging population or some sort of like malnutrition, waterborne disease and all that. So you see darker and darker blue in those areas. So if you look at the world population by level of fertility and in terms of the different countries, so on the y-axis here it says that global average fertility, and UN projected figures also up to 2095 to 2100. So that's your fertility is on the y-axis. X-axis is the cumulative share of the world population of the different countries. On the right side is the number of children per woman. So taking these three factors in consideration, 2095 2100, which is so we will have Zambia will have more number of children per woman, and then you see African countries are having more. Then you can India will be kind of you see the India at below down here, which you are looking at again around 1.7 1.8 as we saw in the previous one. China slightly lower than that. Then we have Canada, Thailand, Japan, and this the flat line that you see, that kind of denotes what is the percentage of cumulative share of the world's population. So if you look at, say for example, India, it's over here. So which around, it starts at around 40% and goes up to 57 58%. So again it will be around 18% of the world's population will be Indian by the end of the century as well. So that's this is again y-axis, you find a cumulative share. Countries are ordered along the x-axis, descending by the total fertility rate of the country. So you can have a visualization of what percentage of population is coming from different countries and how the fertility rates are also going down. So women are having fewer children. This is it is happening, which we already looked at into different slides as well, and the projected figure is also going to go down. For different regions, if you look at these different colors, the purple one is the sub-Saharan Africa, then the orange is your North Africa and Western Asia, light blue is the Central and Southern Asia, dark blue is Eastern and Southeastern Asia. Then you have Latin America is your yellow, green is Australia, New Zealand, light green, parrot green, dark green is your Oceania, including Australia, New Zealand. Oceania has a lot of islands. And then magenta is your Europe and North America, which is at the bottom. So as you can see, this is your actual estimates based on the data, and on the right side is your projections. So as you can see, we will have kind of around the world things will converge by 2100 based on things like fertility around the world will become the same, and it basically entire world should become like a developed country by that particular time as well. So that's what many of these models do assume, that the GDP per capita will be pretty much the same. Then people doesn't have to migrate from one country to another country for better job opportunities and all that. So presently we do have to migrate. So what is migration? Now migration, it is the movement of people into, if it's into, it is immigration. So as you may have seen at the in your airports and other places, wherever is the border, there is an immigration desk. So that is people coming into the country, and out is your immigration. So this is I and here is E. So people going out of the country. So you can, if you want to remember, you can say E for exit, I for coming in. So I is for I immigration is coming into the country, E immigration is going out of the country of a particular area. So migration could be voluntary. People do go out mostly for jobs and studies. Many IITians are settled abroad. So people do go out. Many laborers go to Middle East countries from India. So if you're traveling via Dubai or Muscat or Oman or those Abu Dhabi and all that, you can see a lot of like a working labor population. They do go to those countries and work. Then there are involuntary as well, which is refugee camps. Like for example, Syrian refugee camp in Europe right now, because of the social unrest, they have to leave the country and go somewhere else. There are many times they are forced migration too. Like in many First Nations were removed from the lands they had lived for generations. In say North America, migration, even Australia and New Zealand, the Maori people or the First Nations people, those who are the original inhabitants of those areas. So they have to move out, and that is also happening to tribal population in India. So that's where people have to forced migration, and they have to move to some other areas. So if you look at the international migration average annual change in million, so here from 1990, 2000 to 2010, so 3 decades have been presented. Actually third decade only up to 2017, because they didn't have the data after that. So but for third decade it is only 7 years of data. So we have last 3 decades data here. So as you can see, the average annual change in the number of international migrants by major area of destination from 1990 to 2017. So here in Africa, people were actually going out of Africa. Average annual change in million. Earlier we used to see people going out of Africa. In recent decades, last 2 decades, you see that people actually moved to Africa, and mostly they have moved to Africa for businesses and other purposes as well. Now in Asia, where people are moving out of Asia, now here you may get confused that for each one of those areas we are seeing that immigration is happening. So it's that people going here, we are not talking about immigration. So there are a lot of double counting here. Okay, so don't worry. So people are going from one country to another country, and then the people from Africa is also going to US. And so we are not counting those here. It's not the net value. It is just the individually how much people are coming into the country, how much people are going out of the country. That has not been factored in this graph. So if you factor that and minus that, then of course in some countries you will see net migration to be net migration will be negative, because more people have gone out of the country than people have come into the country. So that's well, as you can see, people are traveling, and this is given in millions. So this is in how many people from that area is moving out. So those average annual change in the number of international migrants by major area of destination. So this is your you see that more people are in where they are ending up, and it's movement from pretty much from one country to another country that has been reported here. This is from a UN report. If you look at the Indian context, since as I mentioned earlier, if you look at the number wise, the Gulf countries is the top destination. So this is Indian diaspora report as of September 2019, and so this is and for each of those, you may have seen that for each of these graphs and tables that we are presenting here, they are coming from certain source. Okay, these are not. This is of course we have collated it for this particular course, so they are coming from certain source. So we are using those and we are putting a link at the bottom, so you can go there and look for more information. So and of course these slides are made available to you in the class. So if you look at the top 7 destination countries for global diaspora, so if you in terms of global diaspora, if you look at this is for the global numbers. This is where the globally how many people end up where. So, US seems to be the #1 destination for people around the world, which is around 46.6 million people of international migrants that is in US, then Germany, then Russia, then Saudi Arabia, UK, UAE and Canada. So, Canada and UAE is almost the same. Now, in like who migrates, from which country we see more people migrating out? We see from India, 15.6 million international migrants, this much people migrating out from India, then Mexico, then Russia, then China, including Hong Kong, Bangladesh, Pakistan and Ukraine. So, this is with top 7 countries, but there you will see the list from others as well. For Indians, like where Indians are going, UAE is where you see the most, like 3.5 million people in Indian diaspora in UAE, then US is around 2 million, Saudi Arabia 1.9, Kuwait is 1 and Oman 0.7, UK, Qatar. So, these are from Times of India. So, total 15.6 million people. Now, in UAE, if you look at the percentage of total Indian percentage of total, how much is the Indian diaspora? 22.4%. 12.8% of the total migrants in US is Indian. So, if you look at the migrants coming to US, 13% of that is Indian, 12.8%, and similarly you can see in other countries as well. Now, population, and we were talking about, so we talked about this migration population. Now, we are kind of gradually getting into our urbanization as well. So, earlier 1990s we had 10% urban, 90% rural. By 2030, which is only 10 years from now, we will have 60% urban, 40% rural. 2050 number will become 70 and 30. So, we are becoming more and more urban, and that has its own challenges. And urban population is mostly, and this is population is also increasing in the urban area. So, to calculate this net change in population, we can do like birth plus immigration, that is in a particular area, minus death, and okay. So, this should be in a bracket. I am sorry here. So, this should be in a, I should fix it before the class. Oops. This should be in the bracket. So, because the death plus immigration for that area should be together. So, population growth rate can be calculated like current population minus the initial population divided by initial population multiplied by 100 to get the percentage which you all which you kind of know. Okay. Now, whenever we have this population explosion, how it is impacting us? There will be decrease in natural capital. This is altering nature to meet our needs. We will have reduction in biodiversity. We will start using lots of space which is supposed to be for the different species. Increase use of Earth's net primary productivity. We talked about that Earth overshoot day and all that. Increasing genetic resistance to pest species and disease causing bacteria. Elimination of many natural predators because we will start taking their space. Introduction to potential harmful species into communities, using some renewable resources faster that can be replenished, interfering with Earth's chemical cycle, that aspect is there, and then let's move it on there. They're relying mostly on polluting and climate change fossil fuels. So, that's also will lead to all these issues in terms of your natural capital degradation because of increase in population. So, now if you look at consumption and associated environmental pressure it's as we were looking at earlier in terms of the questions we will try to answer in this particular week. Are the population nicely distributed? Are these populations distributed equally among the different nations? The answer is actually no, because they are unequally distributed between nations. So, if you look at here, if you look at the top 10 emitters in terms of environmental emissions, and they are top 10 emitters, they emit 45% of the world emissions. So, top 10 countries are top 10 regions are emitting 45% in terms of different climate change, global warming, those gases which is coming out. Middle 40% is 42% of the world emissions. bottom 50% they do only 13%. So, if you look at the top 10 plus 40, so they are taking care, they are almost doing 87%. So, top 50% of the country is doing 80% of the global emissions in terms of because the consumptions are unequally distributed. People are not equally distributed on this planet. So, they are unequally distributed between nations, and that is the reason why you see lot of demand for resources in certain areas, and that lead to a lot of environmental emissions and lead to climate change, global warming, which we'll talk about in the subsequent weeks as well. So, here again I will not go in very great detail, we will talk about that in the class, but then here as you can see in top 10 emitters, if you look at in terms of top 10 emitters, so India is around 1%. If you compare among the top 10 emitters, India is around 1% contribution coming from India. Now, if you put in the middle 40% emitters in that category, so you will see that around 50%, 5% is coming from India. And if you look at the bottom 50% emitters, there you will see 36% actually coming from India. So, depends on how you look at. So, as compared to the high income countries and the middle income countries, we are doing less, our emissions factors are less, but if you compare us with the low bottom 50% emitters, our share is pretty high in terms of those. So, in order to what they have done is, in order to better represent the contribution of different groups of emitters to total CO2 emissions, the charts are split the world into three groups: top 10%, middle 40% and the bottom 50% emitters in each country. So, if you look at from the each country they have taken, so that is why you see the multiple countries showing up here. So, if you just try to identify the emitters in terms of the industry and all, so from each country they have tried to. So, if you look at the top 10 emitters, 1% of that emitter comes from India. When you go to the middle 40% emitters, 5% is coming from India. When you go to the bottom 50% emitters, so most 36% comes from India. So, for each of these groups, the chart presents the percentage of groups emissions stemming from each region of the world. So, that's if you want to, if you get confused with different, because all these areas have been shown in all these charts. So, it's because they are just trying to look at in terms of individual emissions coming out. So, let's stop here and then we'll talk about now urbanization in more detail in the next video. Watch these videos carefully before the class, and I'll see you in the next video.